Hi everybody, welcome to week 4 of BA120. I am here to give you your weekly video and some tips on the homework that'll hopefully help you out. Things have been going pretty good in class so far. I've noticed there's a few people that are getting behind on homework a little bit. If you're having any problems, let me know. I can try to help you. We can try to get somebody at the school to help you out as well. Just keep plugging away at it. I promise it'll make sense. And if it's late, as I've said in the past, please still get it done and submit it. I am more than happy to grade late work. Yes, you are docked some points for it, but you can still pass this class. Just get your homework in and let's see what we can do to help you out. So let's start with what is due this week. Let's go down to Module 4. It's going to be pretty similar to the previous weeks that we've had. So you're going to have a lecture, which you're obviously watching right now. Once you get done with that, you need to post your response to it. The responses on those have been pretty good. Again, just try to give some details, talk about some of the key things that I go over. You're going to have a discussion. With the discussion, same criteria. Initial post needs to be done by Wednesday, and your second post your two responses need to be done by Sunday. Some people haven't been responding to other posts. Please get that done because that's an easy way to get points, and points are going to matter in the end, and every point is going to help. So you have your response, your discussion, and then we will be on to the assignments. This week's assignment is kind of fun. It's not so much debits and credits. It does build on kind of what you've learned in the past, but a lot of it is going to be more of just kind of your basic math and using Excel. So hopefully if some of you have been struggling with the debits and credits, this will be a little bit of a break for you maybe, and then it will make a little more sense to you. So let's download the template and get going on that so I can show you exactly what we will be doing. So here's the template for Module 4, and we start with Problem 17.2a. So this is dealing with inventory. So you've got 3 areas here where you're going to be filling out your inventory that you have, your FIFO, LIFO, and average cost method, and then your valuation basis. And the book does a really good job about walking you through this. So I'm just going to fill out a little bit so I can kind of help you get going. Your description here, again, on your templates, they're on the left-hand side. We've given you a pretty good idea of what you need to do. So if you just look at these, that'll help walk you through it. So for example, your beginning inventory on January 1 is 220 units at $117. So then you'll go down here and you're going to fill out the same thing. On May 10th, you bought 160 for $115. On the 18th of August, you bought 230 at $114. And then on October 1, you bought 220 at $115. So your total here should be 830 units available for sale because that's what you bought throughout the year. Then your total cost to you was $95,600. So you can see, again, as I mentioned here, we've given you kind of the valuation of what is due. So if you look on, so you have, it says on there that you got 228 units that you've sold. So, that you have left. So this is your FIFO method. So with FIFO, basically, you sold your first in, first out. So you sold your 220, you've sold your 160, you've sold part of your 230 because you have 228 units left. So if you have 228 units left, that means you obviously have all 200 left from the October 1st sale. So you're going to have your 220 right here at 115, and your inventory valuation is going to be $25.30. On your August 18th purchase, you remember you had 228 left, so you've got to have 8 units left from there. So 8 at 114 is $912. And I've got a formula here which helps calculate it. That is the $26,212. So now you need to figure out what your cost of goods sold are. So basically, what were the costs of the items that you have sold? So you started out with $95,660 available for sale. You sold all of it but $26,212. So you can see right here I've given you an example, or the math for it. So you're going to take the $95,660 minus $26,212, which I've got in the cell here as well, as you can see right there, which gives you $69,448. LIFO will be kind of similar, except you'll be switching the numbers up, and then average cost, the book does a good job of walking you through that. Down at the bottom, you will be plugging in numbers here. So you're going to have your 228, which we get from right here. You'll have your number from right here, which will tie to right here, and then your average cost, those will tie. and then you will take your costs from right up here and plug that in. Once you plug that in, you'll figure out the lower of the cost or market. So I've given you clues here. You just want to make sure that these numbers here jive with what the book is teaching you to make sure that those add up. So that is 17.2. Let's move on to 18.1a. If you want to turn there in the book with me, it is on page 627. So this one, you're determining the cost to be capitalized for acquisitions of assets. Again, the cells here that are in yellow are going to have formulas to kind of help you out. So with this one, it's just going to kind of be plugging numbers in, but read it carefully to make sure you understand, and I'll give you some tips as we go along. So your manufacturing plant here, you want to figure out what the construction of the manufacturing plant, the cost basically of manufacturing the plant was. As you read through, you're going to be on the second to last line there, and it says, and $5.2 million for building costs of the new facility. So again, that's the second to last line. You'll see that number. If you want to enter you'll want to enter the 5.2 million right there. So then here you'll figure out your purchase of your land because you want to figure out what your land is. So let's talk a little bit about the demolition of the building and the salvage value. So when you're reading on here on the second line down, it says at a cost of $21,000, it raised an existing facility. Fair market value of $300,000, received $14,000 from its salvage. So that building was already there. You're trying to figure out exactly what it cost you for the land to get it ready to build. So it cost you $21,000 to rip that building down. So that's going to increase the cost of your land. So you'll have the $21,000 right there. But you sold off the parts. So maybe you had some bricks, some steel, something. So you sold that for $14,000. So it really only cost you $7,000 for that because of the salvage value. So you subtract that out. So you already know that this is $5.2 million. Again, for watching this, I'll kind of help you out. This is $3,520,800. Your land improvements, read through those. Your cost of land improvements is $270,700. And you'll have your analyze question, which I will let you work on your own. But there are some clues for you on how to do that. Again, it's just kind of plug and play with the numbers. I've given you what the check figures are for all of these columns. I think once you're done with that, you should be able to figure it out. And last but not least is critical thinking 25.1a. If you want to turn with me to that section, it is on page 898. So what you're trying to do here is figure out what's going to happen when you close a department. So you're going to be looking at closing the paper goods department and the clothing items. Excuse me, the paper goods and the clothing items departments, as it says right there, which also it'll talk about in the book. But first, you got to figure out what your net profit is for each of the three departments: woodcrafts, clothing items, and paper goods. So all of these numbers are actually given for you for these areas right here. For example, if you look right here on that page, woodcrafts is 120,000. Your cost of goods sold is 50,000, so your gross profit is 70,000. Then you have your direct operating expenses of 29,000, which gives you a contribution margin of 41,000. And again, all of the yellow cells have formulas in there to help you out. Your indirect operating expenses is $12,000. So you'll want to go through and fill that out. So let's just do that quickly. Let's take a second, because that will kind of help us, or help me show you something that will, with the department closures, that I've seen where students have struggled in the past. So as you fill these out, just make sure that the numbers tie. So you can see there the woodcraft was 29,000. And then the clothing items right here, let's see, I've entered something wrong, obviously. 24,000 and 8,000. Okay. So then nope, you're right. So you got the 16,000. Sorry, I was looking a row off. Because then your paper goods here is 20,000 and take out the 8. And then you will have your 12, take out your 8 there, 4,000, and then 4,000. So obviously the paper goods department is not the good one because that's the one where you're not making any money. So let's look at a couple cells here. The key thing with this is just to read the instructions. So right here you want to know what's going to happen to your cells if you close the paper goods. So right away, if you close the paper goods, you should be able to look at this. You can see, well, my total sales are $200,000. I'm going to close paper goods, so I'm going to lose $20,000 in sales. So if you take 200,000 minus 20,000, you're going to think that that is 180,000, right? Well, you need to read through that paragraph there below the condensed income statement that they have, because it says, in the opinion of the owner, if the paper goods department is closed, a loss of $7,000 in sales could be lost by the woodscraft department. So you have 180,000, which is this 120 plus the 60. But if you close this one, he thinks you're going to lose $7,000 out of that. So you take the 180 minus the 7,000. So that would give you $173,000. That's where students struggle with the most on this particular problem, is they just go through and quick do the math and say, oh, well, it was 200,000. I'm going to lose $20,000. So it's automatically 180. That's not correct. You've got to read through and make sure that everything is there. So you're going to do the same thing for here, 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 and then for these two. Just be sure to read it. And I would give you a check figure. This is $45,000 right here, and then this is $28,000. So as you go through, just kind of figure out, make sure that, or as you're figuring things out, make sure that those numbers tie. Once you've got those numbers to tie, you'll have all of this right here. So again, $45,000 and $28,000. Then you'll be able to go through and answer your questions. I'll let you answer the questions on your own because that's kind of your opinion a little bit on some of those. So at least on the third one. The other one's going to have some numbers on there, but I just want to see exactly if you're understanding it correctly is what I should be saying. And then on your analyze portion, your contribution margin, you'll get that from up here. And I've already entered those, and you can see that I've got the formulas. So again, pretty straightforward. Let's just run through it again. Make sure that you're just plugging the correct numbers in here. These three rows right here should tie to the book. This is just auto filled off of that and formulas, and I've given you your check figures for that. 18.1a, again, I've given you check figures for all of this. Just be sure to read and plug in the numbers. Make sure that you find the amount for purchase a filter, things like that. And then on 17.2a, I've walked you through how to figure your available merchandise out for sale, your FIFO method, your LIFO, and average cost method, and again, that all built on that. So hopefully that all makes sense for you and will help you out with the homework this week. And again, hopefully you can get this one, or hopefully this one will be able to be a little bit easier for you so you can get in on time. If not, if you have any questions, please let me know. But again, please keep plugging away on the other homework, and we will see where we go from there. I'll be happy to get it graded. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great week. Thanks.